First thing is, I'm not going to worry about whether this is sine or cosine at the start. It can basically be either. Every single question, you can choose which one, but some are easier if they're cosine and some are easier if they're sine. So once we get to that point, I'll try to explain how to decide whether it's easier if it's a cosine function or a sine function. My first step is I always mark the vertical displacement, which is always the middle of the max and the min. If you can just look at it and see it, just dot it in. But if you have trouble seeing it, you can always just count from the lowest to the highest. So the lowest value here is at -5, the highest is -1. You count it, it's 4 apart, cut that in half, and the middle's 2 from the top or from the bottom, which gives you the amplitude as well. So I know then the vertical displacement is at -3. I can dot in the max and the min, and then it's pretty obvious to see that the amplitude is 2. So make sure the middle is always the vertical displacement and the amplitude is always from either the middle to the top or middle to the bottom. Okay, now I'm going to figure out the period. So what I typically want to do is I'm going to go peak to peak. As long as I can read two peaks really clearly, that's the easiest way to figure out the length of a cycle. So there I've marked the peak and it's just 3 units apart. To find the b value, it's just 2 pi divided by the period. So I know now the a value, the vertical displacement, and the b value. All I have left is the phase shift. Okay, when I'm trying to decide, should this be a cosine curve or should it be a sine curve, then what I kind of look at is, can I read the maximums easily? In this one, I can. I can see there is a maximum at -5, there's a max at -2, there's a maximum at 1, 4, 7, 10, etc., etc. If I can see the maximums, then I'm going to make this a cosine curve. So this is a cosine function. So for my phase shift, I'm going to pick the maximum that is closest to the y-axis, which is the one to the right. Okay, so my phase shift is one to the right. It isn't wrong to pick a different phase shift, so you can pick any of those maximums as where this cosine curve starts. I just always pick the one that is closest to the y-axis. And now we can write out the equation. Y equals 2, because that's the amplitude. Cos 2 pi over 3 is the b value, and then in brackets x minus 1 so that it goes 1 to the right, and -3 is the 3 down, or the vertical displacement. If you want to put brackets around the 2 pi over 3 and times x minus 1, because technically all of that is inside of cos, then that's fine. If you were going to graph this on the calculator, you would need that blue set of brackets to graph it properly, but otherwise, you'll see it quite often. Those brackets are left out.